Hi everyone, Matt from the pre-sales team at NetSupport here, and today I've got a video for you where I'm going to be showing you how to install our NetSupport School product. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get hold of the install files, and how you do that is going to depend on if you're a trial customer or if you've purchased the software. So if you're looking to trial, if you head over to our netsupportschool.com website, and on the main page, if you just scroll down, click on the try for free button, pop your details into this form here, click on register, and that will take you straight through to the download links. Now this is a fully functional trial, we don't lock out any features, so what you see is going to be exactly the same as what you'll get if you purchase the software. The only limitation is the trial is limited for 30 days and you can only install it on a maximum of 40 devices. Now, if you're an existing customer, if you head over to our support website and log into the My Support web portal, you should see something like this. If you click on My Products and NetSupport School, you'll then see links for the install files. Now, if you need a language other than English, click on the flags up the top here for the country that you're in, and it will change the installers to the relevant language. Now, if you don't see NetSupport School listed here under your My Products, if you click the Register a Product, it will prompt you to enter your license details in, and then the button will appear in the My Support portal here. So now we've got hold of the install files, I just want to talk a little bit about the different components that make up NetSupport School. So the first component is what we refer to as the student. So this is the part of the software that goes onto the student devices. Next, we've got the tutor console. So this is installed onto the teacher devices, and this allows the teacher to connect to the students. Thirdly, there's the tech console. So this is similar to the tutor console, but it's designed for network managers, technicians. It also allows connections to a tutor console as well as a student, and it's basically got a set of features that are more around providing support, fixing problems, that kind of thing. And then finally, we've got the name and connectivity server. Now, this is an optional component, but I strongly recommend that you install it. 99% of the connection issues we see from customers are where they haven't got this component installed, and then once our support team help them get it set up, the majority of the time those connection issues disappear. So I strongly recommend you install and configure that component and use it with your installation, because it's just going to make things go a lot more smoothly when it comes to connecting your devices together there. So just to show you my setup here, so I'm using some virtual machines. So I've got a virtual server here running Windows Server 2022, and then I've got 3 Windows 11 clients, and that's what we're going to be using for the installation today. So the first components I'm going to install are going to be the name and connectivity server and the tech console. So I'm going to do that on my virtual server here. Now, the name and connectivity server doesn't need its own dedicated server. So you've possibly got a server that's running your environment already. It's probably fine to install it on there, and we can do some configuration, which I'll show you as we go through the install, to make sure it's not going to be conflicting with anything else running on that server. But you don't need to spin up a dedicated device for this. It's going to be overkill. So you can see I've got my install folder on the desktop. So if we jump in here, you'll see I've got 2 installers here. So I've got the MSI and the EXE. Now, for a manual installation, always use the EXE file. The MSI should only be used for automated deployments. So that is if you're going to be using something like SCCM, group policy, Intune, and I'll cover that a little bit towards the end of this video about how to package up your MSI for an automated deployment. So just going to double click on my setup.exe here. It's probably worth mentioning as well at this point that all the different components are included in this setup.exe. So we're going to be using essentially the same file for all the different parts. You'll just see how I select what I want to install as we go through the process. So just click on next here, agree to the license terms there. And then we'll get this license screen. So if you've downloaded the software to evaluate, you can see we've got 30-day evaluation selected by default. Just click on next and it will take you to the next stage of the installation. However, if you're a customer who's purchased, you can change that to register and you can enter in your registration details there. Now I'm just going to cancel this because I'm going to show you a little trick you can use if you have purchased the software. So just click on finish there. Now this file on my desktop, this nsm.lic, this is actually my NetSupport School license. So I'm just going to move that and pop it into this same folder here. And if we click on the setup.exe again, just give that a chance to run through there. And again, click through the license agreement and you'll see it skipped the registration page, so it's reading my license details directly from that file. So if you have paid for the software, this is going to save you from having to key in your license information. You can download this file from the support portal, so there's a page where you can go and I'll say download. There's a button you can click and it will email you this license file through if you haven't got it to hand. So I'm going to install the name and connectivity server and the technician console. So you can see there's an option here for the technician console if I want to install it on its own, but I want to install it with the NCS here. So I'm going to pick on custom. So I'm going to select name and connectivity server and tech console there as well. Now you don't have to install the tech console with the name and connectivity server. I'm just doing it because it's a bit easier. It saves me from having another machine set up for this video. It could be if you're a network manager, you just want to install the tech console on your own machine, in which case you do that and just run through, and that would pick the tech console or select the tech console option from the previous screen. So we're going to install both, so I've got both those bits selected there. Click on install and then the software will run through and do its thing. And there we go, we can see it's put a shortcut for my tech console on the desktop there. And then if we click on finish, and what we have now is the configuration window for the name and connectivity server. Now there's a few bits we can set here, but I'm just going to show you the kind of bare minimum to get set up. So the first thing you want to consider is this port here. So by default we set this to 443, which might be fine, but if the server you're installing this on is also acting as a web server, this could cause a port conflict. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this port to 3085. So this is a port registered to NetSupport, so this should mean it's not going to conflict with anything else running on the server here. The other thing we're going to need to do is to create a connectivity key. So to prevent just sort of anybody from connecting a device to your name and connectivity server, when a device connects, it provides a key, and if that key isn't correct, then the server will reject the connection. So we need to create a key. So to do that, if we click on add, description is just a friendly name, so you can type in whatever you want here. I'm just going to call this NetSupport School key, and then if we click on the set button here, and on this screen here you're going to need to provide a password between 8 and 16 characters, so it can be anything you like as long as it meets those criteria. So I'm just going to enter in my key here, should be long enough, and click on OK. And then you can see down here it's showing me an encrypted version of this key. Now this is very important. This is done by one-way encryption. So if you forget what the password is, our support team can't help you recover it. We can't magically decrypt this value here. So if you do happen to forget what the key is, we can get you up and running again, but it does require quite a bit of work. So I do recommend, if you've got a sort of password vault or something like that, store this key value in here, or the sort of unencrypted password in your password vault, so you've got it if you need to refer to it again. Because if you do forget it, it's going to take quite a lot of work to get things right for you again. So if I click on OK, that's all set up. If I click on Apply and OK, and if you look at this little icon in the system tray here, what we should see in a moment there, so that's got a little green tick on it, so that means that everything is up and running and everything is configured correctly. So now we've got the name and connectivity server and tech console set up. Let's jump on to our second virtual machine, and on this one I'm going to be installing the Tutor Console. So this is the part of the software that wants to go on your teacher machine, so this is going to allow your teachers to connect to your students. So again, I've got my install files on the desktop. I've got the license file in here this time, and if we just run the setup, agree to the UAC prompt there, and if we click on next through here, and I'm going to select Tutor here, so this is going to install my Tutor Console. Click on next. Now it's going to ask me for a room. Now the way I'm going to install and set the software up today is going to be using what we refer to as room mode. So this is used in a setup where you've got an IT suite or a computer labs, maybe sort of 20-30 machines for your students to use, and then there's a machine at the front that your teachers use, or perhaps your teachers have got a laptop that they carry around between lessons. So if this is a fixed machine, let's pretend this is in room 1. So I'm going to enter the room name room 1. If this was a laptop that teachers were taking between classes, still enter room 1. We can add additional rooms later on when we do a bit more configuration. So if it's a fixed machine, you're probably going to only want the machine in that room to connect to the machines in front of it. But if a teacher's got a laptop and they're moving around between different computer rooms, you're going to want to give them the option to pick to connect to the machines in the room that they're in. So I'll show you how to do that a little bit later through this video. But for the moment, we're just going to call that room 1, click on next and install. And there we go. We can see it's popped an icon on the desktop there, and there we go. That's the Tutor Console installed on this machine. So the final step of the installation is going to be installing the software on a couple of our student machines. So I'm going to use these 2 virtual machines here, and I'm actually going to put them in different rooms. So this one here I'm going to put into room 1, and I'm also going to install the software on this machine here and put it into room 2. So again, jump in to my install folder, double click on the setup. So hopefully you should be getting familiar with this process now. And if I click on next, accept through the license agreement, and I want this to be a student device, so I'm just going to leave that on student at the top there. And as said, we're going to install this one in room 1 and click on install. Let that run through, and that's all done. And then jump onto the second one, and we're going to do the same process, and we're going to pop this one into room 2. And there we go, all done. That's our student machines installed. So now we've got the software installed on all our machines. There's just a little bit of configuration left to do so we can get everything connected up to the name and connectivity server, and then our tutor will be able to connect to our student devices. So let's start with the student machines. So if you go into the programs menu on one of your student machines and click on the icon for the configurator. So this is where we're going to enter the details for the name and connectivity server. So you want to tick this box here, click on configure, and enter in either the name of the server or the IP address. I'm going to use the server name, so this is just called demo server. You remember from earlier we changed this port to 3085, so I'm going to change that, and then I'm going to enter in the key. So there we go, and click on OK. Now there's one other setting that I recommend you do to your machines as well. So under the advanced option, I would tick this silent mode, no refresh when viewing. So if the teacher goes to remote control a student without this being ticked, the screen will flicker, so the student's aware they're being watched. By ticking this, it will stop that from happening. So just under the advanced menu there, silent mode, no refresh when viewing, make sure that's checked. So if you're happy with that, click on OK, click on yes, and that will just restart the service that runs the student component. There we go, that's just restarted there, and that is all ready to go. So I'm just going to repeat that setting on my other student device. So click in here, enter the name of my name and connectivity server, change the port, and enter my server key. And under advanced, and tick that. Just while we're in here, where we specified the room when we were installing the software, if you've made a typo or you want to change the room the device is associated with, that can be done under this room settings. You can see here it's showing room 2. That was the name I specified during install, but you can edit that from the configurator as well. So if we just click on OK and restart again, that's our student devices all configured, and we're ready now to start taking a look at the tutor. So now we've got our students set up, let's take a look at the tutor console, get that configured and see if we can get everything connected. So what you're going to want to do is click on the tutor console icon on the desktop. Now you'll be presented with this screen here. So this is where you can choose what mode you want the tutor console to operate in, and I recommend you pick one of the 2 left-hand modes. So this middle one here, this will run the tutor console with the more advanced features turned off. So it's a good option if you're using the software for the first time. It allows you to get to grips with the core functionality, and you can then move on to the more advanced features when you're feeling a bit more comfortable. However, if you want to see everything we've got to offer, or if you've used the software before perhaps and you want to access some of the more advanced features, you can click on this this icon on the left here. So this will appear each time you load the tutor console. So what you pick here doesn't dictate the mode it's going to operate in going forward. So you'll get this splash screen here the first time you launch the software. So I'm just going to untick the box there so I don't have to click through this each time I launch. You can see here we've got our room 1 as we specified when we did the installation. But what I'm going to do is click on the configure button here and just add in the details for our name and connectivity server. So I'm just going to click on that there and enter the name of my server in, and again the port we set, which is 3085, and click on the set button to enter in our name and connectivity server password. So that's all done. If I click on OK here, it will just ask if you want to reset everything to apply the changes. Just click on yes there. That's all done. And then if I click on OK here, we can see we've connected to our student Oliver Smith. And if we go into thumbnail mode here, and let's just auto size the thumbnail there, you can see I can see Oliver Smith's machine, so that's all connected and working. Now I'm just going to end the class here, so that can be done at the bottom left, and click on end class. Now, I mentioned that this kind of setup here would be what you would use if the machine in the classroom was a fixed PC, perhaps at the front of the class, but you could potentially have your staff using laptops and they're moving between classes. So as well as connecting to room 1, I also want this teacher to be able to connect to room 2. So they're going to pick the room depending on which room they're in. So to do that, click on New, click on Room Mode, and I'm going to enter in room 2 here. Now you've got this option to make this the active connection method. So if your teacher is perhaps spending 90% of their time in a specific room, you might want it always to default to a specific room when they load the software, but I'm just going to leave it as is. And then you can see I've now got my room 2. So what I'm going to do is just click on select. So that's selected my room 2. Click on OK. And we can see now we're connected to Kimberly there, and that's Kimberly's machine. So I can choose when I launch the software which room that I want to connect to. So now we've set up our tutor and students, let's jump back to our tech console and get that set up. So jump back onto the server here, double click on the tech console icon. On this left-hand menu, you're going to want to select Network and Wireless Settings, use the name and connectivity server, into the settings, and you should be familiar with this by now. So I'm just going to enter the name of my server, enter the port, and pop in the password. And there we go. And we've got our machines connected to. Now there are a few settings you might want to tweak here. So if I go into view and select group by room, it will put my devices into rooms, so it can make it a bit easier when you're giving support. So if somebody phones up and says I've got a problem with room 1, rather than having sort of 100 machines maybe in this view, you can click on the room 1 tab and that will just show the machines that are in room 1. The other thing you might want to do is to line the machines up a bit better, because by default the thumbnails might overlap. So if I select this automatically arrange thumbnails, you can see those two are actually sitting on top of each other, but they're now sort of snapped to a grid, so it makes them easier to see. Now you'll notice here that this left hand thumbnail has got this little icon, so this indicates that this is a teacher machine. So the tech console can connect to both a tutor and a student, but the tutor console can only connect to students. So you don't want sort of teachers connecting to other teachers, but the tech console is being used by your network managers, your techs. It's possible that the teacher's got a problem, so this will allow them to jump onto the teacher machine and help them resolve any issues there. So the final thing I want to cover in this video is how to package the application up for a automated installation. So that's using something like group policy, SCCM, Intune, PDQ deploy. So if we jump to my tutor machine here, you'll see that I've created a couple of folders, and if we jump into the tutor one first, this is how you would need to package the application up. So you'll obviously need your MSI file, so that's what's going to install the software. We've also got the license file here, so if you've purchased the software, it's important that you include this file alongside the MSI. If you don't, it's going to install the software in evaluation mode, so everything's going to stop working after 30 days. And finally, we've got an ini file in here. So because this is an automated deployment, you're obviously not going to have the option to select which components you want to install. So that is done by the use of this ini file here. Now, to obtain a copy of this, if you go on a machine with the software installed and navigate to C, Program Files x86, NetSupport, NetSupport School, and you can grab a copy of the ini file from this folder here. So where are we? There we go. So there's a copy in there, and what you'll need to do is just edit it to install the required components. So if I just load this up, so this I've pre-configured. So if you want to pause the video, these are the settings I recommend you use. So edit your ini file so it looks like mine. Basically a one after any of the components will install it. If there's nothing after it, it won't install. So that's your setup there for your tutor. Now if we jump into the student, you'll see it's a very similar setup. So I've got my installation MSI, I've got my license key, I've got my ini file, so I'll just load this up for you here. So this is the typical installation configuration I use for a student. So again, just pause the video and then you can edit your own ini file to this specification. And then finally, you'll see there's an additional file in there for my student, this client32u.ini. So what this does is it applies the configuration to your students. So rather than having to go in and put in things like the name and connectivity server details, supplying the room, that kind of thing, we can do that by including this client32u.ini. And you can get that off a machine that you've already configured. So you'd install the student, as I've done in this video, set the configuration up, and then take a copy of this file and put it into your installation folder. So if I just show you again where to get this, so on my student machine here, if I navigate Program Files, x86, NetSupport School, and if we scroll down, and there it is there. So it's this client32u ini file that you want. So if I just open this up for you, so you can see some of the settings in here. Important thing to note, this value at the top here is a checksum. So if you need to edit this, it must be done through the configuration application. If you start editing this in a text editor, it's going to break this checksum, and the software basically won't load this file and it won't apply any configuration. So it's a security measure, so people can't change the configuration by simply coming in here and editing this file. So always do it using the configurator that we used to set up the name and connectivity server. Now when you're setting this up, if you're doing out a mass deployment, you probably not going to want to put everything in the same room, so you might want to remove this room value. So just to sort of give you an example of how to edit this, so we go in here, and if we come down into the configurator, yes to the UAC prompt, and then I can simply delete that out there, click on yes, and then if I come back in here now, you'll see it's removed the room name there. So this is the correct way of doing this. If I simply deleted it out of this file would have essentially become useless. The student component wouldn't load it, and I'd have no configuration being applied when the software loaded up. So this configuration method is only possible to do to the student. You can't apply a configuration during install to the tutor. However, we do have group policy templates that can be used to configure both the tutor and the student. I'll do a follow-on video explaining how you can do the settings configured via group policy. But if you're just trialing and you're only installing the software on a handful of machines, you might want to manually configure your tutor and then use the client32u ini file in order to apply settings automatically to your student devices there. So that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all again soon.